Hey guys, how's it going? So let's talk about Enfield real quick. So this is the first day of the second closed beta, at least that I've played, and they've changed a lot since the previous beta. Good and bad in some ways, and I would say Enfield overall has some really good things and a few things they might need to work on and polish up before release. So let's talk about everything. First of all, the graphics. The graphics are absolutely insane. Usually I don't think the graphics are the biggest deal, especially in a gacha compared to some others, but this game's graphics are kind of unbelievable. The textures of the outfits are completely crazy. Even the way the characters move is just so good. I think this game definitely deserves a shout out for that because it is insane how good they made Unity look, because this is not in Unreal Engine 5, it's actually Unity, so it's pretty decently optimized as far as I can tell. I haven't seen any stutters or issues or lag or anything whatsoever. Then again, I do have a pretty good machine, so maybe it has to do with that. I have like a 4090 and a 7800X 3D, so maybe if you're running a lower end spec, then it could potentially have some problems, but right now it seems insanely well optimized and honestly feels really good. The characters are all voiced really well, look great, really fluid, etc., right? So that's all really nice. Now let's talk about some of the other things. First of all, the combat. So you have 4 people out at the same time, which I think is a huge draw because it makes the game feel a lot less lonely. It feels like you're the squad moving together, which is kind of cool. And you can easily swap between people whenever you want, right? In the middle of combat. And also, you can just use everyone's moves whenever you feel like. You don't have to be playing the character to use their skills. Same with ults as well. So like I can just use her ult, and then while I'm still her, I could use Arknights ult right here, right? And so how does the combat actually exactly work? Well, let me show you something really quick. So every character has their normal attacks, they have a skill, I can show right here as well, but they have a skill, then they have a combo skill, and then they have an ultimate. So obviously normal attacks, skill, and ultimate are pretty self-explanatory, but what's up with this combo skill? So every character has a unique trigger ability. So for instance, this one is when the controlled operator performs a final strike, which is the final attack in a basic attack chain, then this activates. She's able to use it, which does electrification to an enemy and electric damage. So you might be like, okay, well that doesn't really sound that crazy. But then Arc-like has something when an enemy suffers electrification or it's consumed, then she's able to use this. So how it works is it makes it so you set up a trigger for all these other characters to be able to use their combo skills, and sometimes when you chain all of them together, you can do a crazy combo of damage, or set up something like where the enemy gets stunned and then you can blow up the ice stun on them, for instance. It makes it so it has some cool team building where it's not just about, oh, use the ice element characters together, but if a new character releases, you could potentially be like, oh, I'll combo them with this, and then it goes into this. I think it's kind of cool. That said, sometimes it feels like you're kind of just button mashing, where basically, I electrified the enemy, and then you just use everybody's skills together, and then you're like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do. Now, also another thing you'll notice is it has a cooldown. So this character's is 3 seconds cooldown. She can use it a lot. This character, it's 20 seconds, 19 seconds, 13 seconds, right? So you might also have to build characters and rotations around those cooldowns to try and get a really good setup. So it has a lot of potential there, but I will say in combat, sometimes it feels like I'm mashing, but maybe it's because I'm a scrub and we don't really know the full depth of it yet, and maybe it'll actually start feeling really interesting with really cool rotations later on. Now, the characters do play differently and feel pretty good as well. If I just show you a tiny bit of how the combat feels, I'm probably gonna absolutely slap this guy, but basically it feels a little bit more stiff, where you're kind of stuck in place, but you can easily dodge at the end. Now here's a combo skill, leads into this combo skill, easily takes them out. But like, no matter what you're doing in your attack, you can dodge in the middle, which makes it so it's pretty easy to get out of dicey situations. Now, in the previous beta, it felt like there was a lot more weight and decision making to some of the attacking, because for instance, if you were playing a character like this and you were like, okay, I'm gonna commit to some attacks, you couldn't just like really spam dodge like this. You can kind of dodge a lot right now. The stamina bar allows a lot of that. In the previous beta, it's like you have 2 dodges and it has a pretty decently long cooldown. And then also, if you were using some skills, like you were using this, you couldn't just cancel out of it. They definitely changed that with the combat, making it feel a lot faster and smoother and a lot easier. Also, the iframes on your dodge are much longer than they were in the previous beta. Now, I will say, I'm not a huge fan of that part, because I actually think this game was very difficult, and sometimes you had to think, do I want to use my skill here because it locks me in place for a moment, or should I wait a moment like it's too dangerous? You had to find opportunities. And them getting rid of that, I mean, it has the pluses and minuses. The plus is the game feels a lot smoother and faster action, but at the same time, it takes away a little bit of what I think some people may have enjoyed about that strategic gameplay. Like, for example, imagine a Monster Hunter. You have to decide that you want to attack at this place and position yourself so you don't just get completely wrecked, right? So them getting rid of that aspect is a little bit of a negative, I do think. Now, let's then talk about one of the next most important things, the satisfactory Factorio building, because this is a key part of the game, and whoo boy, are a lot of people gonna get filtered by this. Oh man. So I have a few concerns with this. I think the building is cool and interesting. Also, I have like unlimited resources of these, so the belt can't even move anymore because I've made so many. I think the game does a really good job of easing you into it, but at the same time, it's too much information. I think many people are going to feel unbelievably overwhelmed by this. Because there's two issues with it. One, a lot of people just don't really like factory stuff. And along with that, they kind of force you to do a ton at once, where basically you're playing the game, you're vibing with the story or whatever, you're playing the characters, you're doing the gameplay, you're having a good time, and then they're like, okay, now it's time for the factory part. You have to build a shredding unit, you have to build these pylons, you have to build a refining unit, you need to connect all of these things, you need to make everything perfectly work. And during those sections where you have to learn a bunch of stuff, it's like you're in school, right? And I think some people are just gonna feel like, what the hell is this wall of information? I can't take all of this in, and they might dip. There's a potential there, I'm saying, if they're not really feeling it. That's one issue. And the second issue is there are too many tutorials, because a lot of games love to do tutorials like, this is how you use the jump button. Did you know that you can attack, right? Like, they do these really dumbed down tutorials made for like a 5-year-old. Every game likes to do this, especially gachas, right? Because they're made for 5-year-olds like me. Except the problem is, this game has like 500 tutorials, but the problem is a lot of them are actually necessary because they're teaching you key components of how to actually run this factory and learning these aspects. And it's almost like a little bit too much sometimes. Especially sometimes you're confused, you're like, what button do I press? How do I do this? And you might like forget how to do it because you've gotten so much information. And some things, for instance, like I'm playing on controller, so I have much more limited buttons, and so it actually makes it a little bit harder to remember exactly like, wait, how do I do this thing or get to this part? Now, previously, in the previous beta, I played on mouse and keyboard and it was a little bit easier. But if you're someone like a PlayStation gamer, you might have a little bit of trouble. But like, for instance, it took me a little bit to remember, oh, okay, you press B on the keyboard to make a track, but on this, you press L1 and down, and now I can make this track, right? So little things like that could be a little bit of a pain, I think, for people. So maybe people on console will have more troubles. But I do think it runs pretty well on mouse and keyboard all in all. I think both of them play pretty well and the navigating is decent. But sometimes it's a little bit frustrating. Like, for instance, I press left on the D-pad, and while holding left, I have to hold up or down to move through this menu, which is just a really awkward way of doing things. So they have some strange stuff like that. Now, how important is the factory? Well, the factory is the lifeblood of the game. It's sort of like how when you play a JRPG, you spend all this time preparing and building your characters and prepping everything. Well, that's basically what this is, because all gear in this game comes from the factory, the gear assembly. Now, a lot of people will be happy to know that gear does not have a ton of RNG substats. You just make the gear, and then you're done. You just made the gear. You can upgrade the gear, I believe, using some stuff later, and it has some RNG element, but it's more of an RNG element of does it upgrade or does it not, and then if it doesn't, you don't lose anything except the resource you used, but you can just farm that resource through the factory, so it's like really easy to get, so it's not really a problem. basically, gearing is very simple in this game, and I think a lot of people are going to be happy because you don't have to farm 8,000 hours for some RNG substats for an endgame that doesn't even exist. Speaking of endgame, in the previous beta, they had this little roguelike gameplay thing, but they said that's kind of just a temporary thing. We don't know what we're going to do. Now, they actually changed it a little bit. Apparently, there's some sort of Tarkov mode that I haven't unlocked yet, and I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but I guess I'll see maybe tomorrow or whenever I unlock it, but I've gone pretty far in the game and I can't get enough experience to unlock it yet. So I guess we'll see what happens then. Characters in this game also have main stats. There's strength, agility, intellect, will. The stat that's gold, it basically means it's your main stat, and then the gray one with the box, that means it's like your secondary stat. So you get damage bonuses just for having them. So it actually says it's a secondary attribute. So will increases the amount you get healed by, intellect increases your resistance to arts, agility increases your armor, and then strength increases your HP. So I assume characters that are strength scaling are probably kind of the best, just because they get so much HP and maybe that actually helps. And then also let's talk about the dupes really quickly. Overall, I don't think dupes are that bad in this game. They're a little bit annoying how they add special extra effects, but overall, it's really not that powerful compared to most other games. And if you look at some of them, it'll just be like straight up stat boost, which isn't a big deal. This restores some extra HP, which is nice. This is just a generic one. Every single character seems to have minus ultimate energy on their 5th dupe. And then the 6th one is like pretty decent, but not that big of a deal. It can be a slippery slope sometimes with some of these gachas and how they do their dupes, where it literally changes how the character plays, and that can be really frustrating and crappy. It doesn't seem like this game's doing that, and I hope it doesn't do that in the future. Right now, the dupes are pretty solid. There is one other thing that is farming and is RNG. There is a little thing called essence right here, and these essences, they actually drop off of enemies. So, because these drop off of enemies, you might have to farm some enemies and they have, you know, their RNG of what stats you get, and I believe you can fuse them together to create them, and you slot them into your weapon, but it's only a single piece of gear for each character, rather than like 5 or 6 that most games do, so I think that's very passable, and I don't really think people can be too upset about that. But I think it's pretty nice that the factory has that use. Also, the factory creates healing items, and how healing items work in combat is you just equip it, and well, that's it. You just equipped your healing item and you now automatically use it in combat. So if you get to really low HP or whatever, it'll just automatically activate. So below 60% health, it just uses it, max 3 uses per battle. So you don't really need to run a bunch of healers, you just have all your characters with some of these drugs on them. And so it just kind of works. So overall, I think that's pretty simple, and I think people will enjoy that kind of stuff. Now here's the thing. How will people receive this game? I think that the combat's cool, but a lot of people may be comparing it to other games, such as Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact or something like that. But this game, it doesn't feel like you're playing one of those kinds of games. It feels like you're playing a JRPG. It feels like you're playing a JRPG that's modernized from the olden days, like Tales of Symphonia, or like with a little bit of Xenoblade or something like that. It feels more like that, like you just bought like a $50, $60 Japanese game and you're just playing it. That's kind of the way that it functions when you're actually playing. It doesn't really feel as much gacha, but let's talk about the gacha system next. And I got a lot to say about this, good and bad. Okay, so what is the bad? Well, it's using the 50-50 system. You know it, you love it, it's always in every single game. So here's the thing. It has a very weird system that people don't understand, so let me just lay it out in a way that makes sense. Basically, 80 pulls is a pity. When you do 80 pulls, it's a 50-50 of what you get. Do you get the character you want, or do you get another 5-star? Or in this game, it's 6 stars, actually. So after that, there are now 40 pulls. So if you lost the 50-50 at 80 pulls in, at 120 pulls, you now guaranteed get the character. So if you did 5 pulls on the banner and you lost the 50-50, now at 120 pulls, it's guaranteed. It doesn't matter when you lose that 50-50. It doesn't even matter if you lose the 50-50 3 times. If you get a character at 20 pulls in, then you get a character at like 10 pulls in after that, and then you get a character at 30 pulls in after that, it's still 120 for the hard pity of the character, essentially. That's how it works. And there is only one of these pities as well. So if you're a whale and you're spamming pulls to try and get as many dupes as possible, well, there's one for 120, and then you're rolling a 50-50 a lot. However, I believe every 240 pulls is a guaranteed version of the character. So if you're a whale, there is some guarantee. Now, it seems to be the exact same as the previous beta. There is also soft pity at, I believe, 65 pulls, but I believe it is the same as the previous one, and a guy wrote a program with all of the information that it gave you, and he did a simulation of 100 million pulls total. And pretty much the math he came out to is that it is approximately 15% more generous than Genshin's Gacha. So that might give you a little bit of a sense of how the Gacha works, and well, I'm gonna be honest, that's not really that amazing when it really comes down to it, because I never really thought that that was a very generous system. Now, you have to keep this in mind as well. We don't know how many pulls we're gonna get. It's impossible to know the pull economy because, especially in the modern era of Gacha, it always changes. You have a game like Tribe 9 that in the beta it was great, then the game launched, it was 1/5 the amount. Something like that happened with Stella Sora as well, and a lot of people got upset. So even if the beta economy is good or bad, it could be completely different at launch. It's really impossible to know. So if the economy was like 40% better than some of the other games that this game is going to be, I mean, essentially competing with in a way, well, then maybe it's actually going to be really good. But just looking at the actual way it works is a bit jank. However, let's talk about something really good here. The Arsenal Exchange. So the weapon banner in this game is like a totally separate type of gacha. Like, it's just not even on the same screen as you see right here. And so how this works is completely differently. You basically, as you pull for characters, you get this other currency you can pull for weapons. And I believe in the previous beta, you could also get that currency weekly from doing like the supposed endgame mode. And in the previous beta, you could pretty much pity 2 full 6-star weapons every single month, which I thought was absolutely insane how good that was. That's including 0 pulls on banners. Just from running the game, you would be able to pity 2. Now, I don't know what it is right now. I don't know how it's changed. However, it's an interesting system where essentially every 40 pulls, you guaranteed get a 6-star. And so if you look at this, these are all the possible 6 stars you can get on this banner. And these are like all mini banners essentially. So like, look, this has completely different 6 stars and this has different 6 stars. And so the main one here, this is like the weapon that you're trying to get, I guess, potentially for a character like a banner character. While these are like more standard 5 stars or 6 stars as far as I can tell. God, I always get caught up in the 5-star, 6-star thing. So weird this game uses 6 stars. They wanted to one-up everyone else. But anyways, so you guaranteed get it after 80 pulls on this banner. But every 40, you also just get a 6-star. Overall, it seems pretty decently easy to get this currency, so I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It seems like a good system, as far as I can tell, and you can even just straight up buy it. So like, this is just a weapon that it just rotates every 7 days what's going to be on it, and so you can just straight up buy the weapon if you have enough currency, because a 10 pull is 1980 and this is 2480, so not a bad deal if that's what you're looking for. But at the same time, you know, maybe if this currency isn't that easy to get and you can only get it from pulls, we'll have to see how it actually is on launch of the game. Now, there's another weird thing in here. So they have the quota exchange, and you know, a lot of these gacha games have this system where like as you pull, you get currencies and you can use it to buy more pulls and other stuff like that. This has something really strange here. It has this headhunt permit. This is for a weapon. Perform one headhunting in Scars the Forge chartered headhunting. This certificate will expire when the headhunting ends. So you can't save these tickets up. So if you're trying to pull Surtur or whatever, I believe this is Surtur's banner pull, it just doesn't carry over, which is a bit mystifying to me why they have something like that. So I guess you want to buy it every single time they come around and just dump the pulls into the character. A little bit strange. I don't really like that system. And one thing I forgot to mention that I think is perfect to say here is pity carries over and doesn't carry over. And let me explain why. If you do 80 pulls and you lose the 50-50, that doesn't carry over. If you don't do the 40 pulls after that, well, good luck next banner, you have to do it again. that doesn't carry over. But if you do 70 pulls and you don't pull a 6-star, then it does carry over. Very strange system, don't you think? Very, very odd system. So I guess you don't really want to dump pulls on lots of banners, because if you lose that 50-50, well then all the previous pulls were kind of wasted. So building pity isn't really a thing in this game. And look, do I think that's a bad thing? Yeah, it's bad that they're doing that. But at the same time, I think people need to stop being gambling addicts and just learn how to save rather than dumping like 5 pulls on every single banner. I mean, we'll find out what happens, but it's kind of crappy they're doing that, but at the same time, maybe people need to get a little bit of self-control as well. I'm not trying to blame the players. I'm just saying, like, I see people throwing like crazy amounts of pulls into every single banner, even stuff they don't even care about. So like, I think we need to start saving a little bit. At least that's how older gachas used to work, right? As you would save. There was no pity carryover. That said though, I don't really think it's a good system. L system. It would be nice if they changed it, especially if you lose the 50-50, the pity should carry over. Makes no sense the way it works. But that's basically how all of the pull related stuff works in this game. I think a lot of people are not going to be a fan of it. Some people might like how the weapons are handled, but the way the characters are handled, it's going to rub people the wrong way, one way or the other, is how I feel. So that's overall most of what I would say about the game. Now, it does have some pretty cool things. The overall map is pretty nice. They've improved how it looks and all that stuff. You get lots of quests. There's lots of little things to do. There's no glider. There's no double jump. You kind of just have to hoof it around, but you can build little relays and stuff to be able to link and fast travel around, which is kind of nice. You can also just teleport to areas, which makes it pretty convenient. I've unlocked a few of the areas, but from what I know from the previous beta where I'd unlocked everything, the game has a pretty sizable amount of content and they've only added more in this beta. So I would say it seems like on launch this game is going to have a lot. And in the recent update with this game, this recent beta, they also added 4 stars because they only had 5 and 6 stars before, and now they have all these 4 stars that apparently kind of just work in a lot of different teams and make it easy to set up. So I think that's a pretty good thing. They've added a ton of content apparently at the end in the second area, which is good. So I think this game is pretty set on content overall. Now, how is this game going to be? Is it going to be the ultimate X game killer? Is it going to kill your favorite game or your least favorite game? No. I think this game, while it competes with a lot of other gachas and fights for their time, I think a lot of people are just going to be wanting to try this game and have some fun, but some people are going to get hard gatekept. I don't think this game can be nearly as big as some of the others because it's not as player friendly. People are going to jump in and they're going to be confused or not like certain systems and they might stop. I think a lot of Arknights players are going to really enjoy jumping onto this game, and there's a huge fan base of that, especially in China. But I think this game is going to happily coexist with most of the others, and I think it's going to do pretty well. I don't think it's going to be number 1, but I think it's going to be a pretty solid entry into the overall gacha ledger of all the games that are out right now. But all in all, I'm enjoying this game. I'll be playing it on launch. Hopefully I'll see you guys there if you're interested, or if you hate the game, well, hopefully something cool will come around, like Silver Palace or something later on, and you'll be hyped. Thanks a bunch for watching. Hope to see you next time.